In this video, I'm going to teach you how to use animated Java and be good at it in under 15 minutes. So this is for people who know how to use Blockbench already for the most part. And if you don't know how to use Blockbench, here's a playlist at the top. Alright, so first of all, what is animated Java? Animated Java is a Blockbench plugin that allows you to import animated Blockbench models into Minecraft Java Edition. So it does this by splitting each folder into its own separate model, and then having many item displays move around to replicate the animation. That's about it, to be honest, but just that is super useful for map development and other stuff. Alright, so let's begin with how to install it. So what you want to do is you go to File, Plugins, and I guess Available. So what you would search for is animated Java. I already have this installed locally, like that, which basically just means I download the file just in case I want to do anything offline. So then, in here, you can see that animated Java now exists, so I want to create a new animated Java rig. So there's a lot that pops up already, but there's nothing too complex about this. A project name, basically how you're going to be calling on it. So I may want to use tutorial. Yes, just like that. Perfect. First try. So next is resource pack. Pretty self-explanatory. You just link the resource pack in your files and enable advanced, basically just putting it elsewhere other than the default animated Java folder. Alright, so when selecting resource pack, you're going to need to select specifically the pack.mc meta. You cannot select the folder because otherwise it will not work like this. Make sure you've selected the correct pack.mc meta. So pack.mc meta, just like that. And it will not show any error if you do in fact have a resource pack. So enable outdated rig warning. Basically, whenever you /reload after exporting a new version, it will go and highlight it red and give you an error. Now, for now, I'm going to uncheck this, but I'll go and explain why you may want to refresh the model after exporting. So root entity NBT, basically the entity you run commands on. I keep this blank normally. Not too sure what the other uses are. So these, you probably want to keep all of these on. Then for these, I recommend using these just in case. Alright, so it looks mostly like regular Blockbench, except you're going to notice some things different. First of all, this up here. Over here, we have variants, which we can just get into these later, so I'll just go and collapse it for now. Alright, so I'm going to go and real quick create a model and animation so you can see how it works. Alrighty, so here's a basic model fully rigged with the proper pivot points and folder setup. So I'm gonna go to create a new animation. So what I recall, this is about the same sort of thing as creating a regular animation. Ignore bones is a whitelist. We'll go into this later. This is specifically animated Java stuff, and it is super useful. I use it for the hoarding bug. Alright, so walking animation, pretty simple. All you want to do, just kind of... Alright, so real simple animation, nothing really to it. And this is basically where some of the more complex animated Java stuff comes in. So if you press this, we have animate effects. Now this does exist in other formats, but they are very different here. Seeing that there's sound, basically this is just for reference, only in Blockbench, so that's not really relevant. Variants we'll go and do later, and commands, basically, at this point, we're gonna run a command. So maybe we want to summon pig. And basically where this executes, it will execute as the root, which is basically the main entity for this, at its location, rotated as it. So that can be super useful for other things, say like maybe particles on a sword, other stuff like that. By the way, future Steve speaking, execute condition, basically, in an execute command, you may have like as, at A, at S. Basically, that is what this here is for. Just for extra stuff, like maybe if the score of so-and-so is a certain number, then it may like do, say, like certain particles. Alright, so with properties again, we're going to be going into ignore bones as a whitelist and stuff like that. So ignore bones. I want to only include the first bone, which is this thing here. Since it's not really animated, there's no point. And in this one, I create another animation where this thingy here is going to spin. Now the legs will not be rotating in game because I will go and set the blacklist so that only this bone will be animated. You won't be seeing it in Blockbench, but you will definitely see it in Minecraft. Now I actually did make a mistake with the whitelisting bones. So I'm just gonna keep this unchecked and just keep bone, the main one, in this list. So basically this one will be ignored. So then also in this one, I have ignored the legs entirely, so that is just easier. Then we can export. Alright, so that sums up all of the special sort of animation things. And on to variants. Alright, so what this does is it replaces one texture with another. So maybe smiley. So then what we want to do is change tutorial to texture 2. So I'm going to go and set the default texture for all these real quick to tutorial. So if I go and swap between these, you'll see that you can swap the textures. That is what you can do here in animations. You can go and make it change the variance. So maybe I want smiley, and over here, I'll go and set it back to default. So you'll see that part of the walk animation will make it smile. That's about it. So next is other features of animated Java that may not specifically be part of animated Java. So we have cameras. Where are the cameras? All right, so we have cameras here, and we also have another called locator around here somewhere. I can't find locators in here, so I'm going to have to assume they already exist. So how you access them is edit, and you can add either a camera or a locator. Null object, that really does nothing, so just ignore that. So for something like a locator, we can go and say, place that up here. It needs to be in a folder, first of all. Please move. Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to put this in the regular body, and this really does not do anything on its own. So what you may want to do is run commands at the location. So say you want particles, you would use locators. Something that you can also do is locator config, which basically sets the mob that this little thing will be. So most times I would set it to something like a marker, because then it's not seen and you can only use it for something like particles. So NBT, that is self-explanatory. So NBT would be not really used for the locator typically. I would use it for the camera. So I'll go and show you right now. So basically how the camera works is it will just look like this, and you can go and also preview the camera, so nothing's in front of the camera, so you're not going to see very much. But that's about it for camera in Blockbench. You can of course change the configuration. So I always set to armor stand, because if you set to something like marker, the teleportation interpolation will be at 0, so it will look really jittery. So I'd use an armor stand. So what I would do is in the config, set the invisible to 1 and no gravity, because when it's not animating, it won't have any sort of teleportation, so it would just fall back to the ground. That's basically the camera. So what you want to do is just, again, put it in a folder. While we're also on config in locators and cameras, you can also configure bones. It's only NBT because it's always going to be set to an item display. So something that you could do is make it quote-unquote emissive by setting the brightness. So like this. This sets the block lighting to the maximum 15 and the sky brightness to 15. Only for this bone here, the cube. So this cube will now glow in the dark, which is quite a cool effect. All right, so that's about it for the Blockbench side. So then we can export the project. Of course, in project settings, you would have selected all these things, set it up, and now you can just click export project. So there you go. Now you have your project in Minecraft. So I'm going to open Minecraft real quick. All right, cool. We're back. So basically what you want to do, first of all, turn on the resource pack. So if you do /reload, nothing will happen as well. Unless you run function, you can see that a whole bunch of functions have popped up. So if I want to summon it, I may do animate Java tutorial /summon. So you can see that there's also /smiley that basically allows you to summon different variants. I just want to summon the regular, so I'm going to do that. And here it is in game. Pretty nice. So you're going to notice that's also rotated a bit. That is because I summoned it on a bit of a rotation. If I were to run a command like this, I can go and summon it straight up. Perfect. So that's typically what I use when summoning animated Java entities. All right, so as you can see, there are 2 now, and I don't want this one to exist, but I can't even kill it or anything. So one thing that you can do is you can run the animated Java command, function, animated Java, your project name, remove. So I don't fully know what rigs does, but this, you can execute that as the root, or you can just do all, which just gets rid of all of them. So that's typically what I use, since often enough there's only one existing in the world. But if I want to remove a particular one, say like death animation, I may use this. All right, so now it's in the game, but how exactly do I use it? How would I animate it? So you would need to maybe run the animation function, right? So let's just go and play the walk animation. There's an error right away. So this basically means you have to run it as the root entity. So the root entity is typically tag equals AJ, animated Java, dot project, so tutorial, dot root. So then you can run this function again and it will work. So you can see that's now spawning a bunch of pigs because I have that one thing. Man, this is getting annoying. All right, I need to stop this animation. So you can also just use stop or pause. Let's get these pigs out of here. I'm gonna turn that off now that you see how it works. All right, now that I've removed that, you can now see that it is animated and smooth, which is pretty nice. You can actually have multiple animations playing at once. So if I do something like spin, you can see that that is spinning, but the legs are also playing the other animation. So that is how I did the hoarding bug, walking upwards and walking downwards without having like a lot of animations for each. So that was super useful. It did lead to some bugs, but for the most part, works really well. Move, scooch. Alright, so from here, you can also go into spectating mode. You can see armor stand here. I can't spectate because it's marker, but you can go run /spectate at S and then the name of the entity at E, tag equals animated Java dot tutorial. Now this is where it gets different. So you can do camera dot and then the camera name. I named this one camera, so I can just do camera and limit equals 1. I think I had to reverse that. There we go. So I'm currently spectating the camera. So if I can go and now run the walk animation, you can see that I'm now doing this. So the reason why I'm on the ground is because when you're using marker, the armor stand hitbox changes to nothing. So typically animated Java accounts for this and has it at your face. So if you don't use marker, it will be right there, where it's supposed to be right here in the animation. Alright, so then to also get the locator, you would kind of do the same thing. So you do .locator name, which is also locator. So I don't actually want to use it in Spectate. Instead, I may want to run a particle at the location. Let's just do angry villager, and you can see that it goes and plays that particle right where I put that locator earlier. That's the basic stuff in a nutshell. So next, you can change the variant without using commands. So I'm just gonna stop this animation. Okay, these pigs are in the way. I'm getting back off. Go, scooch. Anyway, so you can go and run apply variant. So you can do default, or you can do smiley. So like here's an example. If you're gonna make like a custom entity similar to a wolf, you could go and utilize a different texture. See, like the face looks angry and now it's fine. That would be a good use of help me. And that would be a good use of variants. More in depth about why I had you turn off this here. The reason was because if I go and turn it on, if I do /reload now, it's gonna glow red. Now this can be a bit of a problem when you're loading a map, because sometimes it just activates even without this happening. So then basically all you have to do is remove it. So remove this. Since I'm executing it as the root, it will only get rid of that one. And then I want to resummon it. Alright, so if you do keep that on accidentally, and then you have an error and you don't want to like find the position again, what you can do is in spectator mode, you can teleport yourself to the root entity like this. And now you can also see that I have the exact rotation. So what I can do is remove this and then summon it without moving my mouse specifically. So how you know that you should be reloading it is if you specifically change anything in the edit tab. If you change any of those things, then you would want to delete and re-add. So for example, being variants, adding a bone. So I'm just gonna add a bone right now, just as an example. I don't need this camera anymore. So there is going to be another leg just over here. And maybe I want to make it like really long and kind of goofy. So now if we export it specifically with rig errors turned off and we export, you're going to need to first of all reload the resource pack, and typically this will not cause problems. Okay, typically it will cause problems. That is specifically when you may want to reload it. So I would teleport myself to the root entity, remove, resummon. Now I wasn't on spectator because I have axiom and I can just phase through blocks. So if I couldn't phase through blocks, then if I go and place a block on my location, I'd be pushed out of it. That's the main reason why you'd use spectator mode for something like that. Now you'd also need to, of course, reload this when you're trying to resummon it. And there you go, now it's fixed with that thing. So the reason why you may not do this at all times is because in animation, this is not changing any stuff in the resource pack /summon command. So you can just go and like make this thing rotate as well. So now that it rotates, I can go back into Minecraft, and if I go and run the spin animation, it will not rotate the other thing, but if I do /reload, you can see that it will also spin. Something else I do recommend if you have animations playing and you may want to swap to them, like a walking and idle animation, you would want to use animations pause all. So this just stops them, and then you can go and say play the walk animation. I forgot to stop that thing from being rotated. So what I may want to do is first of all stop this animation, then stop the spin animation, which basically just puts it back onto the first frame. And I can play walk again, and it is now fine. The one reason why you may want to use the pause all is because if I go and stop an animation while another's playing, it becomes really jittery, and I really hate that. It actually happened in my Oak House mirror, and I tried to fix it, not too successful. So I've been making sure to fix it in all of my other projects. Alright, so now we're going to be doing a bit of bug fixing. So let's go and say when you summon your entity, it does not rotate with you. And also, if you try and play any sort of animations, like spin, nothing will happen either. So the reason why something like this may happen is because you don't have the tick function right. Either something else is replacing it, or you simply just don't have it in the right location. Another issue is if you have a function that does not exist in this file, then it's also just not going to work at all. So you need to make sure that you have this tick.json right in Minecraft tags functions tick. Now, if this is right, it could also be in the animated Java tags, like the rig tick. Alright, though, let's say you may want to make a copy of it and make a slight change if you want to just keep the information like this. So you may want to just copy and paste it. So I'm just going to go and export this real quick, and you may see a problem right away. So inside of the animated Java folder, tutorial 1 is completely gone. And that is also the same for the resource pack. There's no custom model data. Tutorial 1, who was here before, no longer exists. So this can be quite annoying if you want to just try and like manually fix everything and just not re-export it. Or you could create a new project, name it, say, like tutorial 2, and you'd probably need to just reset these, but you can just go and input your old one, and you have the animations, you have the textures, you have everything. And then you just re-export it, and then it will work just fine. Alright, so some small other tricks for more in-depth people. Say you may want to like change a specific bone to be an item, like how the hoarding bug may back off! How the hoarding bug may hold a specific item. So what you can do is execute as @e tag equals animated java .tutorial .root on passengers, since all the entities that you see are actually riding the invisible root. If the entity that I'm targeting has to tag aj.tutorial.bone, and say we want to target bone 4 here, bone.bone 4, run data, modify entity at s, item.id, set value, Minecraft, let's say like conduit, we would just want to use a conduit. So you can see it swaps to conduit, but there's one problem. When swapping between variants, it will change the custom model data. It will not replace the item, luckily. So for that, you may want to go into the files and remove any instance of it changing custom model data. Alright, so in the data pack, you may not be able to find exactly what you need at first, so you're going to need the resource pack. You can go to Minecraft, models, item, white dye. So this is the item that has all the custom models. So I want to make sure that bone 4 does not change custom model data. So that's custom model data 3. So I'm going to be looking for custom model data, set value 3. So this is the apply default, and that's exactly what I need. So I'm just going to remove that, so that it will not try and change custom model data. Now I'm also going to be looking for bone 4 in the smiley variant. So that's number 7. So go look for 7. That's going to be the smiley variant. So I'm going to remove that as well. So now if you go and change the item, it will not go and change the custom model data. So this could be good if you're looking for compatibility in your data pack with other things. Alright, so next thing is going to be the death animation. Basically, in Blockbench, if you were to make a death animation, I want it to only play once. So what it's going to do is 1 second in, it's going to finish rotating sideways like that, exactly like that. Perfect. All right, so this would work in theory, except for the fact that it's going to do the same thing. It's going to go and straighten back up. Maybe you want to use something like scale. So you want to set the scale to this one in 1, and the next tick you want to set it to 0. And also you want to use animate effects. Now this is specifically if the other entity that is the brains is already dead. So I may want to run function animate java tutorial remove this. So this will remove this model when the animation is finished, since it will be running as the root entity. It will go and remove it without having to do extra things. Alright, so now with the death animation, we can go and play it and we'll see how it looks. So death/play. Oh, check functions here. Hello? The issue was in load because there is now spontaneously this second one, which does not in fact exist. So we need to remove that. Now if I run /reload, it still should not do anything since it adds scoreboards is my guess. Okay, cool. Thanks. So we will need to find that in RigTick. Yep, there's an extra one that does not need to be there. That should be the solution now. So yep. Okay, cool. It dies. So this is an example of command keyframes where you may want to play like death particles, like when any other mob dies. There's also a really crucial tip while making your stuff. please do not use the animated Java namespace for all your coding. It, first of all, makes it really messy to read, but also, if you're going to use like the tick function specifically, it will get erased when you export. So say hi, re-export, it no longer says hi, it's all gone. All your work is gone. I would just instead use a different namespace. If you're making a map, just also contain Animate Java in its own data pack. Since just this little boy alone takes up a surprising amount of data pack space and also a lot of code. So if I go and count the lines in the workspace, you can already see I haven't coded a thing. There's already 1,000 lines, over 300 files. You would most certainly want to go and create a different data pack and then compress the animated Java one. It's much easier for unzipping and just downloading the map as a whole. All right, so that's going to go and sum up the tutorial video. I really do hope that this is useful for you. And yeah, adios.